The inspiring story of Colonel Sanders, founder of KFC at age 62, makes us wonder how this failed business owner created a fast food empire. Listen to this story and discover what you can do with your life today. Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. If you're new here, kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get more videos like this. Let's get started without further ado. The story of Colonel Sanders is one of the most inspiring tales of entrepreneurship in American history. Born in 1890 in Henryville, Indiana, Harland David Sanders had a challenging upbringing, and his life was marked by numerous failures and setbacks. However, despite facing significant obstacles, Sanders remained persistent and eventually went on to create one of the world's most successful fast food franchises, Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC. In this video, we will explore the life and legacy of Colonel Sanders and examine how he turned his failures into a massive success story. As we had already said in our videos dedicated to the Bloomberg study that indicates that the majority of successful entrepreneurs are around 40 years of age, entrepreneurship is usually related to the motivation and energy of the person who has the idea. But in this video, we also concluded something important: entrepreneurship has no age. Sincerely speaking, there is a fantastic entrepreneurial story that proves this theory. The story of the famous Colonel Sanders, the founder and the image of one of the largest fast food franchises in the world, KFC. Let's see how it went. Condemned to poverty, Harland Sanders, better known as Colonel Sanders, was born on September 9, 1890. Sanders was the eldest son of three brothers who were born into a humble family from Henryville, Indiana, which had Irish descent. His father died when he was 5 years old, so he had to learn to cook and work from a very young age. He dropped out of school at the age of 12 to help with chores on the family farm, and shortly after suffering mistreatment by his stepfather, he moved in with his uncles, who lived in the nearby city of New Albany, Indiana. Wait for a second. We see these stories of children who have to mature very early due to family misfortunes, but with this, we do not mean that it is the ideal scenario. On the contrary, what should make us think is that it is very important to learn the value of work from a very young age, as to not realize too late that everything in life is achieved after having undertaken some effort. It is said that at the age of 15, he forged his birth certificate to enlist in the United States Army, which had always represented a relatively easy opportunity to get out of poverty, since the government offers you a salary and an education. In exchange for you defending the country, which also gives you a certain prestige. He completed his military service commitments on the island of Cuba and then moved to Alabama, where he married Josephine King and had 3 children. He studied law by correspondence while holding all sorts of jobs: railroad fireman, insurance broker, steamboat operator on an Ohio river, tire salesman, etc. But the job that suited him the most was that of gas stations or service stations. He held various positions at different gas stations in the central United States until he opened his own in the small town of Corbin in southeastern Kentucky. At that time, Harland was 40 years old, and it was at this age that he started to pioneer many things. The first thing he did was offer a meal service for travelers who stopped to refuel at his gas station. He thought that longer trips were being made every time, and that it could be a good business to also sell fuel for the tired body. In this sense, Harland created the concept of the service station, which is now replicable in practically all gas stations in the world. At that time, he did not have a proper restaurant, he did not even have a menu, but he served his customers at his dining table the things that were available to him at the moment, usually foods that could be prepared quickly or that were easily preservable, slices of country ham and fried chicken. His invention of the service station and also his talent for cooking made him popular in the area, to the point that the governor of Kentucky at the time, Ruby LaFoon, named him Kentucky Colonel in recognition of his contribution to the field of local gastronomy. That popularity, in turn, was translating into many visits to his service station, so that a simple dining table was no longer enough for him to serve all those who wanted to try his delicious creations. That prompted him, a year after opening the establishment, to throw himself wholly into settling up an attached restaurant with a menu of several dishes and with space and tables for 142 diners. It was at this place where he began to prepare his famous fried chicken from his recipe that consists of 11 herbs and spices, a recipe that he patented in 1940 and that has remained secret until now. There is a Chicago Tribune report that a supposed nephew of Colonel Sanders named Joe Leddington revealed the secret recipe, although there is no official endorsement of this other than the man's testimony. This recipe was the star of the menu, and this led him to focus on and perfect it, later discovering that it would have the potential for a bigger business. A big bet. As the construction of Interstate 75 reduced traffic on the road where his store was located, Colonel Sanders began to have losses and high debts. One would think that a 62-year-old man would not have the necessary motivation to navigate the hostile scenarios, and to do so, he would have to make large and risky bets. But he, who believed in his potential and who already knew what it was like to live without more than enough to eat, was not afraid of the next step, which is why, in the early 1950s, he sold his service station for a little less than $75,000. And by 1952, at age 62, he had raised enough money to open the first Kentucky Fried Chicken. He only had a little of that amount left, some sources say as little as $100, after paying off debts, and with that, he decided to drive across the country to do business with restaurants that would sell his fried chicken recipe for $1. Pennies of dollars for each piece of chicken sold, something similar to what Ray Koch, the architect of the success of McDonald's, had done with his milkshake blenders. But unlike Koch, the success Colonel Sanders had with this was almost immediate. By 1952, at age 62, he had raised enough money to open a restaurant in Salt Lake City, Utah, under the name of Kentucky Fried Chicken. At that time, throughout the central United States, there was talk about the fame that fried chicken had in that state, so a name like that was logically attractive to everyone, but no one imagined that its popularity would snowball to what it is now, the second most famous man in the world. The image of Colonel Sanders was quite attractive in many ways, a man with a gray mustache and an all-white suit with a black tie who could be uncle or grandfather to anyone. A family image that helped the company a lot. To look at the burgeoning middle class that was spreading across the United States. By 1974, he had 600 stores with his product in the United States and Canada. That same year, unable to humanely handle the level of business that Kentucky Fried Chicken was assuming, he sold his U.S. shares for $2 million to a group of investors including John Brown Jr., who would later serve as governor of Kentucky. In addition, the company offered him a lifetime salary of $40,000 per year, later increased to $200,000, for him to remain an ambassador and public relations officer for Kentucky Fried Chicken until the day he died. So, he dedicated himself to touring the country and promoting the brand. In 1976, an independent poll named him the second most recognized celebrity in the world. In 1970, he left the board of directors of Kentucky Fried Chicken, but he continued to be the advertising image while the company increased its presence in the United States, Puerto Rico, and some countries such as Mexico, Japan, Bahamas, Jamaica, and later Colombia. Colonel Sanders died at the age of 90 in 1980, a victim of acute leukemia that had been detected 6 months before the fateful event. He was buried in his characteristic attire in the Corbin, Kentucky cemetery. In his honor, the new owners kept his face as an identifier for Kentucky Fried Chicken, a brand that today is one of the most prominent in the world. Legacy of success. Interestingly, in line with our videos on old entrepreneurs, the profile of Colonel Sanders fits the bill perfectly. Because although the establishment of KFC occurred when he was 62 years old, the beginnings of the venture occurred when he was 40 years old, the time at which he opened his first restaurant. At that moment, all the foundations of that great business that is KFC emerged, and the fact that 20 more years had to pass for the venture to become what we know today is just one more demonstration of the mettle and perseverance of this man. It also shows that they think a lot that life ends when we stop doing things and think about a better future than we have now. Another great example of entrepreneurship from the age of 40 is in the Venezuelan businesswoman and fashion designer Carolina Herrera, who at 42 began to make pieces as a hobby, which gave rise to what is today a brand of more than $1 billion. Despite facing numerous setbacks and challenges throughout his life, Colonel Sanders' legacy lives on today. KFC remains one of the most successful fast food franchises in the world, with over 23,000 locations in more than 140 countries. Sanders' recipe for fried chicken is still a closely guarded secret, and his face is still featured prominently in the company's branding. However, Sanders' legacy extends far beyond just fried chicken. He is remembered as a pioneer of the franchising model and a savvy marketer who understood the power of branding and advertising. His never-give-up attitude and persistence in the face of failure is one major thing young and old business owners should learn from. That's all for today, folks. Thank you for spending some time with us. If you found this video interesting, let us know what you think in the comment box. Make sure to hit the like button and notification bell, and subscribe to our channel to get access to more interesting videos from us. While you are here, kindly click on one of the other 2 videos you see on your screen. See you there!